Ready for this conversation? This is exciting. So I'm Deb Beroset, and I am the founder and influence stylist and joie de vivre sage of Moxie Creative and Consulting. And I'm really excited about this conversation this morning because here we are in a global pandemic, and so many people are dealing with job loss and furloughed, laid off, businesses being severely impacted. And my guest today is someone who actually came into the global pandemic having been dealing with unemployment for over a year. And let me bring her on now because she is a huge win. She's a victory story, and she's got lots of great things to share about her journey because she just landed a dream job last week. And I introduce you now. Here she comes. Betsi Roach.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here, Deb.
Oh, it's great to have you. So Betsy, such a change in your life, right? At a crazy time.
Yeah.
Would you just share a little bit about what life was like for you, what you were dealing with in terms of challenges before the pandemic came along?
BP, before pandemic?
BP.
Yeah. So my last position ended at the end of 2018, December 31st, 2018. I was let go. And it's all good, positive. Like I was wanting change, or okay, so fine, you deal with that. And I had people tell me, well, at your level and what you're looking for, it'll take a month. And I was like, I got this in 6 months. No, like I'm going to get a job in 6 months. And, then there goes 2019 and welcome 2020. And we'll get to a lot of those details later. But, heading right into the pandemic, I actually I was expecting one, if not two job offers in February of this year. And both were rescinded or put on pause due to the pandemic. And so I then, I was getting pretty fearful, right? It's like, in my conversations with people, and one of my brothers who's an employment attorney and was like, Bets, the world's going to end. Like, this is going to be really bad for your job search. It's going to even be extended. Like, we got to figure out, some scenarios here. I just also was really dealing with, well, how am I going to keep my mood up? How am I going to keep my finances going? Like just a lot. And then there's this whole global situation. And so trying not to get sucked in and consumed by that, but not get sucked in and consumed by my situation. And so there was just so much uncertainty in that March timeframe when all of this really, really hit, at least, hit in the US. So yeah. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of panic, a lot of fear, a lot of when I get in that space, and it's not often, a lot of what comes up for me is you're single and you got great friends and you got a great family, but like you're single. And so that kind of crap came up too, because 56 and single wasn't how I designed my life. Like that's not the path that I saw for myself, but that's a whole nother conversation too. But that's really where I was at in the end of February, beginning of March timeframe.
Right. Yeah. Which is we met for the first time. When was that? February.
Early February.
February. So we were at this Conversations for Women event that you'd been going to. It was my first time attending. A great thing. Sarah Conway, our friend, has organized, and Jen Kramer's very involved in organizing that. So this great group of women getting together physically to have a conversation on a topic. And you and I happened to sit next to each other. And I will never forget at the end of the conversation, at the end of the evening, you and I were sitting there. Yeah, Sarah, I see you. Sarah goes, woo, conversations for women. By the way, my mother says, congratulations, Betsy.
Oh, thank you, Deb's mom.
Marty B. Marty B.
Marty Beroset, you raised an amazing woman. Thank you so much for all you did to make her into who she is, because she's a true gift to the world. So way to go, Marty.
Thank you. Thanks, Betsy.
Absolutely.
So Betsy and I just kind of hit it off that night, and we were chatting afterwards. And I remember talking to you about your situation.
Yeah.
And say what you said. It was so interesting.
Yeah, it was serendipity dipping her graceful hand into my life. And we started talking, and I shared with you that I, at the time, was in transition in between jobs, and that Conversations for Women, this monthly gathering, was something that I really, really enjoyed. It was a new event in my life. It had started in the fall, but I just really got nurtured out of this monthly gathering of women that just come together to talk about different things. And so I shared with you that I was looking for more of that as 2020 was launching, and I was now a year of job search under my belt. I had really gone through that year and found it soul-sucking. To me, the job search brings up, even when you have a job, it brings up every single insecurity you have, and it sucks your soul. And so I said that to you. I said, I'm looking for more things like this that will nurture my soul as I continue to look for my job. And that's when you dipped your hand into your fabulous briefcase and pulled out a flyer.
Yeah, my leopard bag from Target.
But shared that you were doing a master class on soul care. And it was like we couldn't have scripted it any better. It was a magical confluence of great events. Yeah.
It really was. And and it was amazing to have you in that group. By the way, Betsy and I, you want to stay tuned for the end of this conversation, because we have a special surprise for you if you're impacted by this situation, employment-wise, financially, your business. We have a special surprise for you, so stay tuned. More to come. But back to your story, Betsy. So what was some of the conversation going through your head in the dark moments when you were, there you are, you're, all of a sudden everybody's at home, you have your amazing furry friend, Worsley, right? And you're a single woman, and you're unemployed, right? And you turn on the news, doom and gloom. So what were some of the things that you were personally dealing with in that moment? And then we're going to talk about some of the things you did that had you thrive.
It was very surreal. When I was in conversations with my friends and my professional colleagues, it just was really surreal hearing what people were dealing with. Because, in our lifetime, we've never dealt with something like this. This is unprecedented. And I'm kind of tired of that word, but it's unprecedented. And there are a lot of times where I am in just disbelief that the world has to deal with this, and shock and disappointment in how, quite frankly, without getting political, but how the United States leadership is dealing with this. And so that shock and that disappointment really then translated into just fear and sadness. Like I had a couple of mornings where I woke up and I just cried because I was sad. And it wasn't necessarily for me, it was for the world and what we are all dealing with, because we're all in this together.
Yes.
And so just a lot of those just sad, depressed, surreal feelings.
Yes, yes, which we all are dealing with, and they're going to be magnified when you're dealing with personal adversity and challenges, right? So, okay, I know everybody wants to hear, how did you do this? How? Oh, I don't think I mentioned that the dream job call came on your birthday last week.
Yeah, I know. Like, again, serendipity. And it was, as I was thinking about my birthday, and I'm a big birthday celebrator, right? Like, like it's the day you're born. Like, and so I really believe in celebrating birthdays, and I'm known for celebrating my birthdays. Like, that's just one of the things about Betsy that people love, I think. And but I thought, well, I'm in a pandemic. Like, it's not, a year ago, I threw myself a birthday party, and had all my closest friends in Chicago gather, and couldn't do that. And so it was like, it's just going to be a quiet day. I've got, some work. I'm going to keep doing my job search, and I'll be on the phone with family and some friends. I did have a couple of evening Zoom calls set up to celebrate. And so I just thought, that's fine. It's going to be great. It's going to be different. And that's okay, because that's the time that we're in. And then I actually had a call that morning with a recruiter for an opportunity. And then during that call, I got a call from San Francisco. It was a San Francisco phone number, and they didn't show up in my contacts. And I was like, I wonder, who that is. Then lo and behold, get a voicemail after and check that. And it's the president of the board of this organization that I'll be joining, and wanting me to call her back. And we connected. And as soon as she said, well, I've got some exciting news to say, as soon as I heard that word exciting, I was like, I'm going to get a job offer. And like, it's my birthday. And like, it's a global pandemic. Like, it just, again, it was a very surreal moment that I will always, like, I went out of my body and was looking down on what was happening. So it was really kind of crazy to have that. Yeah.
You're bringing tears to my eyes. I'm so happy for you, Betsy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great. Well, and this is maybe a great segue into one of the things that kept me going through all of this was just like the perseverance that you have to have in something like this. Like I had my vision of my next job. I'm an association professional. I really love working for a professional membership association that helps set the foundation for people to grow in their professional development. That's what lights me up. And so I had this vision that I wanted to work for a global association in an executive director role, and I was open to relocating. Like, that was my deal. And I come out of many years in the legal space, and yet I was open to different industries. But, so I had that vision. And so I think when you think about moving forward and setting goals, you've got to have that vision, and perseverance. You've got to have that vision, something to keep you moving forward. It's also in my family DNA. Like, I'm from Minnesota. Like, we put our head down, we do the work. Like, you just kind of plow through it. It's not always fun. You just, like, it's that Minnesota work ethic, right?
Yeah.
That. But then I also believe in planning your time. I'm a big believer in plan your work your plan. Like, it kind of sounds trite, but like that, I believe in structure. And, it's just really about planning and structuring your time accordingly. And I even, I had a coach early on in 2019, and that accountability, like I do pretty well on accountability on my own, But there were times where, yeah, I needed somebody else to kind of nudge me along. So for me, having a coach was really, really helpful. And then I really believe when it comes to something like perseverance, it's about who you surround yourself with. Like, I know that I have a lot of strength and I have a lot of perseverance, but there were times, like, I have no idea as I look back on these last 16 months where I got the depths of my positivity and my perseverance. But I know that I got it from my friends and my family and the people that I surround myself with, because I had to rely on that from others at times, because I didn't have the belief, or I didn't, I did want to give up and I did want to settle. And so I'm really clear that what kept me going was that faith in me that others had.
That's so good.
Really,
and
really
I know for myself and a lot of people, sometimes when things aren't going well, we tend to go, the turtle head goes into the shell. It's like, I don't feel like talking to anybody. I don't want to la la la. So I think it really is a matter of making sure you have to extend yourself and to share what's actually going on. But then when you do that, the effect of it is tremendous, right?
It is. And, there are those days when you do need to stay in your pajamas, although we find those days now, right?
Right.
Put pandemic aside. And that's okay, because you're going to have those ebbs and flows. And so I really, I'm not one that has always historically given myself a lot of grace. But I was pretty clear I needed to allow myself grace and ride those emotions, because I'm really solid. I got strong shoulders and I am solid. But yet there are times when I dipped, and thank goodness for mental health, because I knew that when I did have a dip, I would come back out of it. And so I allowed myself that time. But the other thing that I would talk about, there were kind of 3 P's that I wanted to, talk about in this. The second P, we talked about perseverance. The second is positivity. And I was, when I entered this transition, this time of transition, I set that intention to be positive throughout. And so I really believe in setting intentions all throughout your day, right? You can set an intention every 30 seconds. You can set a new intention in every 5 seconds. And so that's where having that sense that I'm going to stay positive through this was really front and center for me. Because there were a couple of times when I wanted to give up and I wanted to settle. But I really believe we have a choice on how we approach life. Right. And like who we want to be and who we want to show up as. We have a choice in that. And sometimes that choice is harder than other times.
Yeah.
But I just kept kind of going back to those fundamentals as I was approaching this task and this chapter, because I knew it was a chapter. That's the other thing. Like, I knew there would be an end to this chapter of transition. I knew it was temporary. I knew it was not permanent. It was scary because you don't know when the end is coming, but I knew that it would come. And I just had to do my part to make it come sooner rather than later.
Right. So great. Yeah. So amazing. Well, our brains do turn any uncertainty into fear. And given that uncertainty is kind of a theme these days for everybody, it helps to normalize what's going on with us, I think, to know that, okay, this isn't weakness. This is just all of us are coping with a lot, and many people are coping with a whole lot, as you have been. And so, the other thing that I really hear in what you're sharing, Betsy, and what I've observed in you, in us working together and knowing you, is you are like the poster child of the courage energy bandwidth, right? I mean, in terms of energy levels, that courage energy is the first one that kind of pops you up out of fear and all of that, and resignation up into the light, like where you're expanding instead of contracting. And one characteristic of that energy of courage is that it's kind of like a giraffe trying to stand up when it's on that first day it's born, right? Like the wobbly, you know, you get up, you're like, okay, I'm up, I can do this. And then it's like, oh, and then we got to get up again, you know, and I think a lot of people get so discouraged because they keep feeling like they fall back, but that's just part of the process, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, again, I go to like my DNA and, you know, it's in my family. And I just thank God all the time. You know, I call it luck of the gene pool for who I got born into, you know, and we all have, you know, I'm very lucky. I know a lot of my friends have amazing parents as well, right? So I'm not alone in this. But, you know, I am really blessed in many, many ways. And that belief system, that comes directly from my parents. And I'm getting teary thinking about it because I'm just so grateful for it. And, you know, there's a lot of passive aggressiveness and, you know, there's some flip sides to that stuff, but like by and large, like that opportunity to just stay positive, do the work, like, and the rewards will come. It will happen. I really believe that. Like there's karma.
You know yourself to be a resilient human being, right? Yeah. And one of the things that I talk to people about is if you look back on your life, yes, this is like, you know, a bizarre time in history, but look, you don't get to be our age or even 20 years old and not have dealt with challenges and adversity. Right. And, you know, we're still here, right?
Yeah.
We have done hard things before.
And not only here and thriving, like,
right.
You know?
Yes. Thank you. Exactly. Exactly. So I know we've got lots of people cheering you on who are watching, Betsy. So if anybody has a question, just type it in and I will convey it to Betsy. If there's something you want to ask, something you want to say to Betsy, just type it in and I think I can, I'll be able to see it. Okay. But meanwhile, while we give people a chance to think about that, I would like to ask you, Betsy, like, I'll tell you something that really struck me when I first got to know you was I saw this really cool video that you posted on Facebook of you doing agility training with your dog.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought that is awesome. Yeah. And what that said to me when I watched that, first of all, I was impressed because you and your dog are really good at this agility training thing. That's a hard thing to do.
He rocks it. I'm the slug that has to keep up with him. He's amazing. Well,
yeah, but you taught him everything he knows, right?
Well, that's true. That's true.
So, right. So, but what that said to me beyond just, wow, isn't that cool, was, okay, here's a woman who has been unemployed. I just want to underscore this, for more than a year, well over a year. And yet, as she is going out there and looking for opportunities and talking to people and having conversations, she's also doing things that take care of Betsy. Yeah. You know, you were pursuing something that you loved. And, you know, I remember one time we were going to talk and you said, well, I can't do it then because I'm, you know, going with Worsley to an agility class. I'm like, how cool is that? You know, you did not, you were prudent with what you were doing with your time and your resources, but you pursued what lights you up. Would you talk about that a little bit and the role that plays?
Yeah, I just, you know, as much as when you lose your income stream, you need to assess your financial resources and make some changes, which I did. I also believe that you don't have to go into austerity mode. Oh,
There he is.
there he is. Sorry. At least at that time, I didn't.
He knows he's the subject here.
See, he wants to join into the conversation. He's like, Mama, no, it's not like that. It's like this. I'm going to put on my headset.
Totally fine.
All right, here we go. This is one of the joys now, right? Of all this, being together and at home. Sorry. Hey, Worsley. We have people moving in upstairs, I think. So that's something. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, I just was really clear that in order for me to show up as the person that I know I am when I'm interviewing, I have to keep living my life. And part of that is, my Cujo, the guard dog here, trying to make him happy and being with my friends and different things. I treated myself occasionally to a massage. You need to really take care of yourself during a transition like that. And that's actually my third P, kind of touches on my third P, which is your person and who you are. And I really believe in the interviewing process, you need to let them see who you are. And for this job that I'm going to be starting in the final interview, one of the questions, I forget what it was, but my answer was about when I was a camp counselor. And as I was saying it, I thought, maybe not the most professional example you should be giving right now. But the question dealt with being a leader and not always being liked. And, having to make a hard choice or a hard decision as a leader. And, this goes to, again, me being from Minnesota when everybody wants to like you or you want everybody to like you. But that feedback that I got as a camp counselor, which to this day, I think it's probably the best job I've ever had. But I got that feedback that Betsy, lights out at 10 o'clock means lights out at 10 o'clock. That doesn't mean you can let a few people stay up later because you like them or whatever. Lights out at 10 means lights out at 10. And that feedback for me as a leader has become really valuable in all my different positions, because sometimes you have to enforce the rules and sometimes you do have to play the bad cop. And, that's just part of being a leader and managing things. But so I shared with them that example of when I was a camp counselor. And, I believe that especially when you're forming new relationships and even in a work setting, you need to be, I have found, your authentic self, and you need to be open, because the only way that people can connect and you can start to build relationships and build trust and build that loyalty is for those openings where people see a chance to connect. Now, people that I don't know that are listening to this are like, oh, she's got a dog. She's got a guard dog. Well, I've got a dog. Maybe we've got a connection there. And if we ever meet, right, like it's something initially to talk about. And so just that showing your person and bringing your person to the job process. I'm really sorry.
It's really, we're all used to seeing kids zooming around and dogs bark. It's part of life now. We just include it.
It is. But anyway, it just, I won't go on, but, I just really think that it is about paying attention to your emotional health, your physical health, your spiritual health, and really ensuring that as a person, you are taking care of yourself to show up in these interviews and then allow them to really get to know you and your authentic self and the value that you bring.
Yeah. That's golden, Betsy. I love that. I recently read that Malcolm Gladwell said that the central problem a lot of people have is they don't know how they're interesting. They don't know what makes them interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty close.
Yeah.
And so I love that, that whole notion of actually spending some time reflecting on what has you be you.
Yeah.
Like what does the package called Betsi Roach bring to the party? What is your essence? And I love the fact that that you did some work on, I'm going to bring that. Like I'm not going to separate out some of the gold and keep that for my personal life. You know, I'm going to bring it all to my next position. And it sounds like that's what you've got, which is super exciting.
Yeah. I even had, you know, in at one point I received some feedback from a recruiter that said, well, you know, here's different tweaks you might want to make on your resume. And one of the things I had at the bottom of my resume, at the end of it, it talked about like some of the travel that I've done, and that I have participated in triathlons, and I love to cook, and you know, so like there's some verbiage in there about personal interests or whatever, and they suggested that I take that off, and I was just really clear, and it was one, if not two lines, right, in a 2-page document, so it wasn't a huge overkill or too much information. But I was just really clear on, no, I'm keeping that in there because it gives people that opportunity to connect, especially when there's some different things. Like I studied in this former Soviet Union. You know, I had somebody in an interview ask me about that, right? So like, you know, I think you can take feedback and accept it and then use it or not. In that. And I just know myself well enough that that was information on my resume that I wanted to include on there because, again, I wanted that opportunity for connection if it arose.
That's really good. You know, and can you touch upon a little bit about like if somebody's newly unemployed, right? They might feel like, what's the point in, you know, like everybody's looking for a job. That's how it can seem, right? Even though it's not the case exactly. But, you know, what would you like to offer people about having conversations, like generating conversations with folks, even if it's not a formal job search conversation?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's paramount. Like the networking is paramount. And I totally believe in it. I've believed in it all my life. I've always been open to talking with others in their search as I talk to others in my searches. And I think in a job search, you need to look at different channels, right? You know, whether it's LinkedIn, the different job sites, Indeed, on-ramps, right? You can't just focus on one thing. And so networking is definitely a channel. Now, for my new job, I found out about the opportunity through LinkedIn, but then I tapped into my network to help build some of my credibility, right? Because I knew people who knew people on the board. And so I tapped into that. And not only did I use my network as an opportunity to find out about this new organization and what are things that they're dealing with, what's your experience with the organization. So to do that due diligence, to just equip myself more in the interview process. But then also they shared that, okay, yeah, I know somebody and 2 people on the board of directors, and I'll mention that they need to hire you. So, you know, your network can work for you a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. There are 2 other things I was really clear on. Every time I had a conversation with somebody in my networking conversations, I always ended it with 2 things. One was, is there anybody else that you can suggest that I talk with? And would you make an introduction? And then the final thing I said was, please know that if there's anybody that you talk with, whether it's in 5 days or 5 months or even 5 years, But if you are talking with somebody and you think they should really talk to Betsy, please, the door is always open. So I just, because like the world is smaller because of our relationships. And I just believe we have to help each other out. And so I want to just make sure that people know me to be somebody like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah.
And we do, Betsy.
Thank you. Thanks.
Which actually brings me to the thing that I wanted to make sure people are aware of is that Betsy and I have cooked up a little something. As you know, Betsy was in the soul care program that we did through the month of March, where it started out as an in-person, and then we quickly, after one meeting, had to go virtual. Now it's designed to be virtual.
Yeah.
But we've got a program coming up, and it's very empowering in terms of it's self-care at a deeper level, and it's really designed around reinvention and taking care of yourself with a capital S, self. So Moxie is offering some scholarships. I'm actually calling it the Betsy Scholarships.
Oh.
And so we're offering scholarships to the next soul care program, which is starting on June 1st. And so if you are someone who could use some TLC for your soul, I invite you to go to the Moxie website. The URL is on the little crawl on the bottom of the screen. It's timeformoxie.com, and go to the contact page. And go to the contact page, send me a note, or if you want to send a video. But Betsy and I are going to be going over the entries, and we want you to just like maybe write 2 or 3 paragraphs about, why you want a scholarship to soul care and what do you want to get out of it. And then Betsy and I are going to go through, and we're going to pick a handful of people. It's an intimate program, no more than 10 or 12 total. And I'm willing to have up to half of the group be scholarships for people who really could use the lift and the boost right now. And then the women who are able to pay to be in the program, you know that you're going to be helping subsidize some of our sisters who are in a rough spot right now. So anything about that, Betsy?
Do it.
Yeah.
Like I just, the soul care, and I think that's kind of one of the things we talked about earlier in the conversation. I just think it's so important that we pay attention to our soul and nurture that. And Deb's class, this master class in particular, is so like, there's so much juiciness and goodness to it. And you will uncover things that you hadn't realized you had covered up. And it was really an instrumental pivot point for me in not only just my life in general, but this chapter of transition. So I just cannot say enough great things about Deb and this class. So sign up for it.
Thank you, Betsy. Yeah. And it's really delicious because you're in this really supportive, intimate group of women. We're going to be doing online meetings. And then there's also, I do a Moxie Oasis 2-hour session with each individual person in the group. And then, and there's presents that come in the mail too. Right. You get presents. You get
little presents.
You get a Moxie notebook and so many fun things. So you want to get this into us by no later than Friday the 22nd, sooner if you can. Why not just do it now while you're thinking about it, right? Please share this with a friend who you think could use some soul care. And we'll be informing the folks by no later than the 25th about the scholarship situation, the Betsy scholarships. And also there's an early bird special for folks who are able to handle the tuition. Much appreciated if you join the group as well. So, Alicia says, you are an amazing and wonderful person, Bets. which is
back
true.
at you, Alicia. Like I said, it's one of the many blessings in my life is that I have surrounded myself with amazing people. So yeah, thank you.
So great.
Thanks.
And I know people want to know where this job is, but we're waiting for the formal announcement.
Yep. I want to wait for the formal announcement by the organization. I want to follow, just be sensitive to letting them announce it. And then y'all will hear it, me shouting it from the rooftops.
That's right. Well, Betsy, congratulations again.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you so much.
And it happened to a better person. Thanks for being willing to share your success with
Happy to. And I hope people found a nugget or two of helpful information and a little inspiration, and it can happen. There
are people hiring.
Yep. There are people hiring. And I just was clear I was going to be that person that got a job in a global pandemic. And here it is.
Woo!
So,
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Deb.
Tell Worsley, thanks for sharing you with us. Oh, Sarah says, hey, brilliant conversation. Love you both. Congratulations, Betsy.
Thanks, Sarah. Love you.
All right.
All right.
Have a great day.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Deb.